Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this very special, this very exclusive interview with here Sports Extra with me, Ahmed Nawaz, and we have an individual who's truly been decorated throughout his career as well. And you know, if I just start with one thing that he's said, he says it's not often in life that you get to do something that stirs your very soul. This is what he wrote in his autobiography as well. He's been in England, he's been decorated in cricket. If you talk about cricket in terms of playing as a player as well, in terms of managing cricket as well, you know, he's been there, he's done that. We've been very, very fortunate that he's come to Pakistan. He's took over Pakistan's cricket structure as well, and he's truly working that day and night, putting in those extra hours just to lift up Pakistan cricket as well. I'm talking about a man who's achieved all you can think of. Warwickshire Most Improved Youngster in 1995, County Championship winner for the same team as well, the NatWest Trophy winner with Warwickshire. He was even made a member of the Order of British Empire, the MBE, which is a huge honour, and not many people know this as well. I'm talking about Managing Director now, Pakistan Cricket Board, Mr. Wasim Khan. Wasim, assalamu alaikum and welcome to Sports Extra.
Thank you for your kind introduction.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm guessing you've got a lot on your routine, but you giving us time just for this interview is truly special.
It's great to be involved and being invited to a quality TV show.
Right, just tell me at first, you know, tell me about your career in cricket management, because I guess this is one of your fortes now. You started as a player, now moving towards the management side, now MD PCB as well. So where this journey all started from?
Yeah, I finished playing professional cricket in 2001, and like most players, when you finish playing, a lot of players move towards coaching. So I got my coaching qualifications. I went to go into local schools to start coaching. And I did that for 2 or 3 years, and then I got an opportunity. The former governor of the Bank of England, a guy called Lord Mervyn King, rang me out of the blue and said, I want to set up this program called Chance to Shine, and it's about getting cricket back into schools. And he said that, you know, you learn so much about life, you learn so much about yourself. Cricket builds character, it shows character, you learn about discipline, about strategy. And kids are losing out on vital educational opportunities by not playing competitive cricket within schools. So we set on this journey of this ambitious plan of raising £50 million in over a 10-year period and try and reach 2 million children across 7,000 state schools, which is approximately about a third of state schools. So we set off, and you know, alhamdulillah, by the time I left after 9 years, we'd raised £55 million. And reached 2.5 million children, of which 1 million were girls who'd never played the game before. And it was touted as the biggest grassroots sports development program in the world at the time, based on the scale. So I was very fortunate to do that. I then did an MBA at Warwick Business School, where I delivered some lectures after I did my MBA as well on leadership there. And then the opportunity came around at Leicestershire County Cricket Club. Yeah. So I did 4 years at Leicestershire as the chief executive in first class cricket. And then the opportunity came around to join the PCB, and it was something I couldn't turn down.
You became the first Pakistani British origin player to play professional cricket in England as well at one time. You averaged 49 for a team that was the champion at that time. You know, they achieved the treble. They were decorated as any county side can be. You even represented the England under-19s as well. So what was the cricket dream growing up as well?
Cricket dream, I think, was playing for England, I guess, because I grew up in England and that was the only pathway. But you know, growing up in inner city Birmingham, those days there was no brown faces playing county cricket, and so everyone kept telling me I was wasting my time. But I learnt from a very young age that I learnt a lot about myself, that I had a lot of resilience and I had a lot of willpower to set my mind on something and then go out and achieve it. And breaking through at the age of 19, I think I scored 3,000 runs that year, 1700s across all formats of the game. And then was awarded a contract, and it was the dream then was to go on and play for England. Didn't quite happen, but I was playing in an era where every county side had some serious players. So Wasim Akram was playing at
dangerous bowlers. Yeah.
Lancashire. Waqar Yunus was at Surrey. Courtney Walsh was playing. Curtly Ambrose was playing. Javagal Srinath, Mushtaq Ahmed. So every side had a glittering overseas player, and they were normally quick bowlers.
You're seen as one of the most important personalities in English cricket. 11th out of 50, that was the ranking for you as a personality for English cricket as well. You know, leading the Cricket's Foundation, 50 million chance to shine campaign, you know, 50 million pounds in start as well as the CEO. 1.8 million children it managed to reach. You just corrected me before the show as well, that is beyond 2 million people now. And the funds that you generated as well. What was this idea about this entire campaign? I understand bringing cricket back to schools was a great initiative, but it was more than this, wasn't it?
Absolutely. It wasn't just about cricket, and it wasn't about what the schools can do for cricket. It was more about what cricket can do for schools. And you know, we all play the game. We love the game. You know, we've learned so much about working within a team. As I mentioned, you know, you learn a lot about yourself as an individual. And you know, your education shouldn't start and stop in the classroom. You know, you learn so much through friendships, through playing, working in groups, playing competitive team sport. You have to strategize. You've got to work as a team. So all those things were very helpful to me growing up and playing schools cricket. And school cricket started to die out in England, and particularly in inner city areas where there's lots of Pakistanis in particular. You know, Birmingham has, you know, 95% of its population, of Pakistani population, live in 5 inner city wards, which are pretty deprived. So, you know, this was about trying to develop young people and try and give them life skills that they could use moving on. You know, try and develop their sense of resilience and their character. And I think these things are really, really important in life. You know, when you go for a job interview and you don't get it, you've got to learn how to bounce back from it. You know, you learn that through maybe getting out first ball and then having to come back and come back stronger next time. These are characteristics and traits that you develop, which also help you as a leader in later life.
And it's about self-resilience, isn't it? Because as you mentioned, your dream was to play for England, and once you couldn't, then, you know, it wasn't a step down for you. You just wanted to climb another ladder after that.
Definitely, and you know, becoming the first British-born Pakistani to get awarded a contract, it wasn't something you set out to do. But I've been very fortunate that I've been trailblazing in many ways. When I became chief executive of Leicestershire, I was the first black or Asian chief executive ever in the history of county cricket. I was also the only black or South Asian across any professional sporting club in England, across football, across rugby, cricket, all the sports you can mention. It's very sad in many ways, but also I hope that I set the benchmark.
That trend would be set.
Absolutely. Yeah. If I can do it, then there's certainly opportunities for others to go that way as well.
Leicestershire in particular, if we talk about that, moving on and being the CEO, chief executive, if you want to say it, of that county as well. What was that experience like? I mean, there's a lot of things that differentiates a lot of other countries in terms of cricket structure or organizational cricket as well. What did you learn in Leicestershire that you thought could be, you know, better for other cricketing structures?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, I mean, from the off-field point of view, you know, you learn about the whole commercial side. So you've got to, you know, looking at the whole commercial income side. You look at ground development, infrastructure. You look at, you know, you negotiate players' contracts with agents. So you work right across every spectrum that you can possibly imagine as a chief exec. So the breadth of your experience is enormous. You know, in terms of on the field, I was very fortunate last year that I chaired a working group that the England and Wales Cricket Board set up to look at the domestic structure from 2020. So I chaired that with the likes of Andrew Strauss and various others sitting on that. And that really gave me great experience around reforming domestic structure. And yes, it's very different here, but the fundamental principles of what you want to achieve with domestic game are no different.
Cricket in Pakistan is not just a sport, it's a passion. You know, people go beyond certain boundaries when it comes to cricket. What was your perception of Pakistan cricket all over these years as well? I'm sure because you played with Waqar and Wasim as well, one of the greats of Pakistan cricket. The aura was there as well. But what was the perception of Pakistan cricket in England at that time?
I think the perception has always been based around incredible talent, unpredictable, perhaps can be quite chaotic and unorganised. But man, when they click, you know, they can beat anybody in the world. And I think that was certainly the perception. But, you know, my experience of, you know, watching Pakistan was back in 1982. You know, watching Imran Khan's side come over in 82. I went to the test match at Edgbaston to watch that. And it was my first experience in falling in love with, well, these are my people, this is where I belong. England is England and it's great and it provides opportunities, but also ultimately this is where my history is. And that's where, I developed a passion. And, when Pakistan toured in '87, when they won the T20 World Cup, I was there on the stands in 2009 with my friends from Birmingham. Champions Trophy 2 years ago. Yeah. I was actually sitting there in the stands at the Oval with my friends, just normal tickets, having a day out, supporting Pakistan. So my passion for Pakistan has always been there, and I think that, I guess the only thing that you find a little bit hurtful at times is when people try and question whether your motives for doing what you're doing. And I think that I've said it before. If I wanted to keep my career going in an upward trajectory, I would have stayed in England. I could have earned more money. I had a settled lifestyle in England. But for me, coming here to Pakistan to contribute to Pakistan cricket was something that I just knew was in my blood and what I wanted to do. And I've been now in Lahore for 4 months and I've loved every moment of it.
Well, certainly the city's been treating you well as well. But because you mentioned about coming back to Pakistan and leaving all of those charms in England as well, I'm a little tempted to ask you this question, that when you first learned about this job as MD PCB, when you were offered this position, you must have known that it has a lot of baggage in Pakistan, considering what conditions are like here. Whenever somebody tries to change the structure, there's a lot of backlash and resistance as well. What was your first thought when you were offered this job?
I think I kind of knew before I even applied for the job, and I went through the process of then obviously being confirmed as the MD. I knew from speaking to a lot of people that there was a huge amount of politics involved, that any changes would have a massive knock-on effect, or a perceived knock-on effect for a lot of people. So therefore it wasn't sort of like working in England where you would make changes and people would kick up a fuss, and then you kind of people would then fall into line. I knew that would be relentless. It's been relentless from day one since I arrived, in terms of the media attention that's been pointed at me. Perhaps it's been quite sad in some ways that it's been focusing on the wrong things. I have no issues with being challenged about saying I'm going to deliver X, and if I deliver Y, I'm very happy to be challenged on that. But I think when your integrity gets questioned, I think that it doesn't shed a good light on the media, because I think that dealing with facts, I think, is more important. There's a lot of fiction that flies around because it makes stories, and a lot of gossip. But what I've done is very, very well is I've kept myself away from all of that, and I've stayed strong through quite some difficult challenges over the last few weeks. I'll be happy to admit that, but I'm pretty self-resilient. I've come here to do a job. I've come here to serve Pakistan cricket. I've said from day one that working for the PCB should not be an entitlement, it should be a privilege. And I've approached it very much as a privilege. For me, it's about what I can actually do to move Pakistan cricket forward. If you think of all the talent that we've exposed over the years, just think if we had a proper system in place in terms of what we could actually achieve in this country. And that's what I'm focused on, and I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about this role. I'm certainly not going to get derailed by lots of noise on the outside. For me, it's about staying focused on what I'm doing, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
But that's the real charm of it, isn't it? That you shun all of this negativity. You realize it's there. You know that fingers are being pointed, but you still have that courage to just, shut that negativity out of the door and continue with your work.
Definitely, because, you think, well, what are the fingers actually being pointed at? I've been in the job 3 months. Yeah. So, you start to then disseminate that, and you start to break it down. And then you just realize that actually, you can't win with personal agendas, and you struggle with that. So therefore, that there is absolutely no reason for you to get involved in that. But, to make things change and to go through the change process, it's tough, and, you have to make tough decisions. But ultimately, I sleep at night knowing that I'm doing what's best for Pakistan cricket. I've got no personal motive about which direction we go, but it's about understanding what is the right thing to do.
You've already faced those big, bad fast bowlers in the past as well, so you're ready to take these bouncers head on, aren't you?
Yeah, I was an opening batsman.
Yeah.
So, half the time the fast bowlers were just trying to hit you in the head. So, I learned that very quickly. And so, the strategy and the strength that you draw from inside yourself, I think is massive, and I think I've drawn on a lot of that. I spoke earlier about how cricket sets you up for life. So whether I'm dealing with putting the strategy together, or whether I'm dealing with adversity or negative press or whatever it might be, I draw back on all the things that kept me strong when I was playing cricket. As the first British-born guy coming through, he had his own pressures. So for me, it's water off a duck's back. So, whatever the agendas are to try and push things or try and force me into a certain direction, it's for me, like I say, it has no impact on me. I've got a lot of inner peace. I only answer to the Almighty, and that's the way I've run my life, and everything else is peripheral. It's a lot of noise. But for me, I'm absolutely focused on what I've got to do.
Well, let's talk about these past 3 months. As you mentioned, there were a lot of challenges as well. I'm sure you realize that there are many other challenges that need to be tackled. How do you intend to overcome all of them and, change this trend here in Pakistan?
Yeah, I think with anything to start off with, I think, you've got to try and understand the direction of an organization. We didn't have a strategy, so we weren't clear about, where we were right now and where we wanted to go and where we wanted to be in 5 years' time. So the first thing we've done is, I've kind of worked on putting a strategy together. With anything, your strategy comes first and then you align your structure to that. It's making sure that every department within the PCB has some very, very clear objectives. So performance management has to be put in place. This is part of the professionalizing process. What that normally does within an organization, it either makes people determined to prove themselves, or people leave very quickly because they don't like the new system.
Yeah.
Because
they
it's
can't
about
cope up with it.
accountability,
Yeah.
right? So people love grey areas in life, because if you've got grey areas, then you can't be accountable, because it's always somebody else's fault. So, one thing we've tried to do is tighten that. One thing I do know is we've got a lot of passionate people who work for Pakistan Cricket, for the PCB, who do want to move the organisation forward. I arrived on day one and I said, look, if I don't do my job, then I don't expect to have a job, and that's absolutely fine.
And that's the way it should be for other people as well?
Absolutely, and you can't live by fear, and you've got to back yourself. This is what I'm here to do, this is what I'm going to do. And what I want is everyone to feel that same confidence. They'll be supported, but ultimately you've got to deliver in a job. So I spent quite a bit of time the first few months doing that. We've managed to change women's cricket as well, which has been fantastic to be involved in that. I was involved quite a lot in England with women's cricket. So what we did is we changed the selection panel, and we've got an all-female panel now, run by and as a chief selector with Aruj Mumtaz, former Pakistan cricketer. Articulate woman, someone who's bringing energy, direction, isn't afraid to make tough decisions, and is a real leader. And we're already started to reap the rewards. We drew 1-1 in the
South
ODI
Africa,
series,
yeah, that was amazing.
and we're 2-1 up in the T20 series with 2 games to go.
And nobody would have expected this from Pakistan women's cricket in the
No,
past.
and so what we try to do is we try to support the girls. So little things like when they're travelling over 5 hours, is to send the girls business class, like the men do. Making sure their daily allowances are improved. Feeling valued as a human being, you can't put a price on it. When you make people feel valued, you get different results. And what we're starting to see, it's by design. It's not just happened by coincidence. The girls know now they've got a management now who are taking an interest in what they're doing. They're valued equally as much as the men in terms of what we do. And we're moving forward now and making good strides. And excuse me, I can only see good and positive things, and we've set some very ambitious targets now for the women's game in our country for the next 5 years, and I'm really confident we'll achieve it.
In Pakistan, we've been idealizing the structures in Australia, in the United Kingdom as well, about cricket, about domestic cricket, county championships as well. You've seen that, you've been part of that structure as well, you've been the chief executive of that structure as well. There is the gap. You can't deny that there is a huge gap between our structure and theirs. How are you intending to bridge this now at your time here at PCB?
Look, every country has their own unique structure that works for them. You can look at different models, you can take the good bits out of it. But what has to happen in Pakistan is you need to have a domestic structure that works for Pakistan. So, we're working on various things at the moment, which is work in progress. But as I said earlier, that in order for us to arrive where we are, something isn't working. And I think it's widely acknowledged that the system as it currently stands doesn't work. The wickets aren't good enough. So have 25 scores in first class cricket of scores of less than 100 isn't good enough. If you're top 40 bowlers, you've got no genuine quick bowlers and no spinners within that. That tells you you've got an issue. You need wickets that last 4 days. You need every wicket across the country, so how many venues we've got, each of them have got to have their own characteristic. So when you turn up to Karachi, you know what type of wicket you're going to get. We've got to expose our guys at domestic level to as many different conditions as possible, so we can start to get them ready for what they might face at international cricket. So whichever route we decide to take in domestic cricket, we're doing because we believe there needs to be stress in the system. In order to have quality, you need stress. You need there to be high level of competition. You can't have a system where you've got the departments, you've got the regions. Somebody who plays for a region then represents a department, or vice versa.
The same people all over again.
Same people. So, for example, you could have a player who plays for a department, who then potentially, there's an opportunity for a side to get promoted and they flip across and they play for a region. This is the type of mini chaos we've had. Whether people want to accept it or not, it happens, and it is happening. And so we've got to focus on what's best for Pakistan cricket. And for us now, it's about finding a balance with all of our stakeholders. I appreciate there's a lot of politics, there's a lot riding on whatever changes are made. So that's why we're not rushing into it. We're going to spend the next 2 or 3 months looking at our options. How do we balance the decisions with making sure we do what's right by all of our stakeholders? And that's certainly something that we're going to do, but we're not going to compromise on quality. We've got to produce Pakistan cricketers. At the moment, we produce cricketers who play for Pakistan. What we have to do is produce Pakistan cricketers, and there's a subtle difference to that.
Absolutely, but in the years over, or in the past as well, from '92, 1 ODI World Cup for Pakistan, 1 T20 World Cup for Pakistan, Champions trophies there as well, a lot of other important series victories. So Pakistan has enjoyed a fair bit of success when we talk about cricket, but the consistency hasn't been there. So my guess, or anybody's guess, would be the same answer you just gave, that maybe something's wrong with the pitches, maybe it's the structure itself as well, or maybe it's just for the fact that nobody's absolutely doubting that we don't have talent in Pakistan, but they just need the right recognition and the right hand to lift them up.
Definitely, and as I gave you some stats about 25 in 25 innings, less scores of less than 100 in first class cricket. The top 40 wicket takers, so there's something not working within the system, and we're producing players, but we're not producing them by design, we're producing them by luck, and we're unearthing the players. Imagine we had a system or a structure
which could refine them.
Yeah, which was based on merit. So we run lots of good development programs, but how do we bring all of those things together into one system? And we can't be afraid of change. So people who are talking openly about the changes that are being made are focusing on the wrong things. What we have to focus on is, let's not complain then when Pakistan, the national side, isn't winning in Test cricket, because that's not happening by chance. That's happening because we don't have a game that nurtures test cricketers at a grassroots level. Red ball cricket matters a lot, and it's important you find the balance in your system between white ball and red ball. At the moment, the white ball's there, red ball is here. Our wickets don't reflect the type of cricketers we want to produce. We want guys to be able to bat a day and a half, score 200. I don't know when was the last time and how many double hundreds have been scored in first class cricket in the last 2 or 3 years. Batting time, learning, honing your skills, learning your technique, going to different wickets. You go from Sialkot, you go to Karachi, you go to Lahore. There are different wickets. You've got to challenge yourself in terms of adapting to those wickets. This is what other countries do. You go to Australia, and you go to the 6 international grounds. If you ask most cricketers around the world, describe what the characteristics are of the wickets at each of those 6 grounds, they can tell you.
Yeah.
That tells you that they have got a system which best prepares their players to go on and play international cricket.
And that's how you learn probably as well at the same time.
That's how you learn. You've got to learn, and there's no point taking. You can train these guys as hard as you want, but if you put them on substandard wickets, you're never going to get the results that you want. So it's really, really critical that we start to address those things. Look at what cricket ball is being used. I'm a big fan that perhaps in the first year of domestic cricket you have the no toss rule. So if whatever system we go down, you turn up an away ground and you have no toss, that will make sure the home team
gets the advantage.
The away team gets the advantage, because what happens is the away team has got the choice of either inserting the home team immediately when they arrive, or if they want to, not sure, they can toss up, whatever. But you give them the opportunity. So what happens, the home team produce the best possible wicket, because they could be batting on that.
Yeah, so it becomes equal at one point.
You become equal. So what happens is the curators produce the best possible wickets, And that's all you want, is the best possible wickets for our players. Bowlers to have to work hard to take wickets. You want it, to turn on days 3 and 4, and you want batters to bat for periods of time. That is a first-class structure.
But I'll just pick on this because you just mentioned this point as well, and I'm pretty sure this is not discussed over Pakistan, or nobody's given that much of importance to this fact as well, is the curators as well. It's not just about those players playing for your national side or your domestic side, but we need to invest more in curators as well, who understand technicalities of the ground and the pitches themselves as well.
Absolutely, and you know, investing in curators is massively important. We can work with the ICC on that to get them additional training, to get people together. You know, our coaches, so you know, we've got a lot of excellent coaches working across the country in domestic cricket, working at grassroots level. You know, I've recently been to England and I've had conversations with Warwickshire and other counties about setting up an exchange program, so we can get our coaches going over there and working within academies for a couple of weeks, see what techniques, what methods are being used over there. Look at our umpires, can we get them exposed to English conditions, so can they go and umpire in second 11 cricket in England? You know, and our young batters, you know, how do we get them over to England to start to play in English conditions, looking at more A tours to England, more under-19s tours. It's great sending these guys to Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, but what are we really learning about these guys? You know, how are we really setting them up for Test cricket? We need to be touring Australia more with our youngsters, going to New Zealand, South Africa and England.
Toughen them up.
Toughen them up, but get them hone their techniques, get them to understand, actually if you step up a level, you know what's going to be expected.
Cricketers have been lucky in a sense that the Prime Minister, Honourable Prime Minister right now, is one of the greatest cricketing personalities in the world, the most respected probably, and that is Imran Khan. He's been a hero for Pakistan, still is. He has a vision of changing this domestic structure. I'm not going to ask more on this. I know PCB is doing their homework, but there's a fair bit of negativity involved in this, in what people claim that there are a lot of players who'd go jobless, and you know, who always are trying to say that the PCB hasn't thought it through. I want you to just give us a brief about that. Does PCB have a plan for this as well?
Yeah, we do have a plan, but it's a work in progress at the moment, and it would be wrong of us to start talking about what that domestic structure looks like, because it's not just about the top layer. What's going to underpin this is in terms of how we flow downwards. So, you know, you want grassroots to be strengthened, you want a city base to be strong, and then you need to lead upwards into your regions. So until we have those details and we've thrashed all of those out and we're clear about exactly what they are, it's difficult to talk about it. But it's great that, you know, we're very fortunate that we've got a PM who's an ex-player as a sport of cricket. He understands the importance of the game in this country and what it means to the people. It's not just about being passionate, but actually what it does do is raises self-esteem of the people. If Pakistan do well, it makes people feel better. You know, you talk about exercising, it releases endorphins, it makes people feel happier. Cricket does exactly this, has that same medicinal kind of effect, you know, but it also has a negative one if we're not doing as well. So, you know, as the PCB, you know, we've got a responsibility not just to the game, but to the people of our country. To do what's absolutely right, and whatever structure we put in place, one thing I will say is, we'll try and balance all parties to try and make sure our stakeholders, we find as much balance as possible. But secondly, to find a structure which will be there for a very, very long time, will stand the test of time, but will produce international cricketers of the highest quality. You know, we look at extending our first class season, so it doesn't start in October and finish in December. There needs to be an even coverage. There's got to be time in between matches to plan, to rest, to plan, to prepare for next games, get in the net, start working on things, so that every innings that players play means something. That's how you create stress in a system. That's what you start to create intensity, a high pressure. There's already a huge gap between international cricket and first class. What we're trying to do is just close it a bit more, bridge it a bit more. You're never going to quite get there, but if you can start to bridge it, you're starting to prepare these guys a lot better, getting sports psychologists working with these guys. Every other country does it, and yet we've only recently started using a sports psychologist.
Which I thought was a great initiative by PCB.
Yeah. So, you know, I was shocked to come in to realise there was nobody there. So it was important that we got somebody in of repute, a Pakistani national, a sports psychologist who can work with the players. Every country uses, there's no shame in using a sports psychologist.
It's about understanding as well, yes.
Absolutely, you've got to understand yourself. You've got to understand your own triggers. You've got to understand, You know, what do I look like on a bad day? What do I look like on a good day? How do I raise my self-confidence after I've had 2 or 3 bad performances? You know, resilience, if it's not educated at a lower level, it's hard to have resilience at the higher level. You've got to have some sorts of mental skills training in order to help you develop that, so you can understand yourself better. That can help you emotionally control yourself when you get to play international cricket. We're preparing Pakistan cricketers from a young age. This is a whole system change. When you create a whole system change, people will have issues, but you've got to create alignment at every level. We want a seamless transition from 13s right up to the A team, right up to guys who get called up. When guys get called up to Pakistan, we want them to understand what fitness levels are required, because that's what they've been judged on, and that's what they're being accountable for, playing in domestic cricket. They've got to have the skills training so they understand that. You know, they've got to have had the opportunities to bat long time. If they're bowlers, they've worked hard to take wickets. These are the things. Why shouldn't we have an aspiration? If people will look at that and say, oh, you'll never achieve that. But you know, you're going to have your doom and gloom merchants. You know, so it's important for us that we stay energized with our vision of where we want to go.
Well, cricket is not just about playing in the field anymore. It's about education. Ethics are there, values, morality comes in as well. It's about educating those players, individuals, officials involved in the game. Unfortunately, cricket in the past and currently faces a lot of threat due to elements such as corruption, you know, illicit practices in cricket as well. If we go back, the spot fixing scandal that happened with Pakistan cricket took us back 10 years and threw us in a dark pit. It was unbelievable to get out of it, but we managed to do so. Are we still working now on these kinds of things that not just help us as Pakistanis, as Pakistani cricketers, to learn about these practices, stay away from them, but you know, benefit international cricket as well?
Definitely, and I think, look, that there's 2 specific areas where we really don't have a lot of margin for error. One is around sort of the whole anti-corruption space. The other one is around safety and security in Pakistan. So addressing this, the sort of the anti-corruption thing, you know, we educate the players now quite a lot when we've learned from the mistakes of what happened in the past. And so our programs now are very stringent. We get them at a younger age through our academies, through the under-19s, and start educating these guys. So, you know, it's perhaps something that was a missing link in the past, because, you know, we haven't had high-performing academy programs, systems running across all of our country. You know, we've had a centre in Karachi, an NCA, National Cricket Academy in Lahore. But, you know, we haven't had a lot apart from that. And we've got 220 million people in this country. What we're trying to create, the part of the whole system changes, that they get this education at a younger age. So we can start to educate them.
At grassroots levels.
At grassroots level.
Yeah.
So when they come into 13s, under 16s, playing for their, you know, sort of provinces or their cities or the regions, that these guys, you know, they're getting the education. We want players to be international ready.
Yeah, well-groomed.
Well-groomed, yeah. International ready when they get there. What we don't want is these guys learning about this stuff when they're playing for
already
Pakistan.
There, yeah.
And that's part of the issue. You know, there's a lot of free time for our guys. You know, why can't our guys improve their English, for example? You know, these guys are now ambassadors for their country on an international stage. Some guys play international cricket for 15 years and struggle to bring 2 words together. English is a universal language used around the world. You know, it's our responsibility to provide these types of education for our players coming through from a younger age. So when they stand in front of the camera and they've had the media training, they're more comfortable with English, they can actually stand and give a good account of themselves and do themselves justice. And I think that you know, there's so much we can gain from developing our whole system. And it's not just, as I mentioned, the top level. We are looking everything from bottom up, top down, to try and create a system that's here for a very long time.
We did talk about women cricket. You did mention the success they're achieving. South Africa's been phenomenal for them. I think the ICC Championship started on a good stage. But these girls have a lot of talent, but still there is a huge gap between them and women cricket in Australia, women cricket in UK. There's been a lot of talk about having a premier domestic limited over tournament for these girls as well. Australia did it with a Big Bash League for women as well. Do you think that in the near future we can see a PSL for the women's side as well?
Potentially, but I think we're a long way off that. You know, just to give you an idea, there's around about 45 girls who play in our domestic structure at the moment. One of the things that, again, that I've addressed very quickly is none of these girls get paid to play in any of these domestic tournaments. So now they're going to start to get paid if you're a domestic cricketer. Because, you know, for us, it's not just about what we do at the top. You know, how do we attract more girls to start playing? There's got to be a value attached. So when they're fighting their own corner with their own families to go and play cricket, what we don't want families to keep arguing with the girls around is, well, why are you doing it? You're wasting your time. You know, if they can start to see some monetary value coming back for their efforts, it's going to encourage more girls to want to get involved. Now, you mentioned about Australia and England and other countries. You know, they've got very mature systems. They've had a lot of investment going into women's and girls programs for a very long time. With us, we're just on the tip of the iceberg with this. We've seen already in 3 months of starting to improve and increase the feel-good factor, start to invest a bit more, make the girls feel valued. But what it does do, it raises self-esteem, it raises levels of self-confidence. You know, giving somebody a voice and for them to be heard has a huge positive effect on human beings. And I think that we all want to be heard, we all have got something to say. And I think what I've tried to do is create a system now where they can talk about what what's wrong with the girls' cricket, what needs to get done. As I said, we've had to make some tough decisions already with the selection panel, with the women's game, but I believe it was the right thing to do. You've got relevant individuals. Our average age is 33 of those 3 girls. So we've got Asmavia Iqbal and Marina Iqbal, and we've got, as I mentioned, Aruj Mumtaz involved now. Passionate, relevant, girls respect them. They get out and they watch domestic cricket. And you know, they're absolutely the future for us in terms of driving where we need to go in the future. So, you know, we're going to get there. We've got an ambition of moving up the table. Interestingly, if we'd won the series, the ODI series, we would have gone joint second with England.
England, yes, and that would have been the first time that would have happened.
First time ever. So imagine what the future looks like. Let's transport ourselves forward 3 years of 3 years of investment, building the pool of talent coming through, and building our skills training, building our high performance around the girls programs. Just imagine where we can be in 3 years. You know, I believe strongly that, you know, having these role models playing for Pakistan is great for women and girls in this country. And you know, we should be proud of what they're achieving. We should be proud of what they're doing. They're ambassadors for Pakistan. Let's make them feel valued in our society. And you know, these girls are a great opportunity for us to actually have a more bigger symbolic message for women in our society and how we look at them and how we treat them.
Over the years, a lot of credit for feeding Pakistan cricket has been given to the Pakistan Super League, the PSL. It's been a limelight tournament. You know, there's been a lot of talk about that. I want you to give me your take on this tournament, how imperative it is for Pakistan cricket right now, and also the fact that we've got to consider that it's not just the PSL. You've got your Premier First Class Tournament, Quaid-e-Azam Trophy, which is the 4-day one, which requires a lot of attention. And at the same time, you've got your National One Day Cup as well.
Absolutely. And you know, the PSL is a great product. And it certainly, look, we've seen with the IPL and various others, you know, Bumrah has come through the IPL. What the PSL will do is, it will give the platform, whilst we have no international cricket, in the absence of international cricket in Pakistan, it will give some of our very young best talent an opportunity to be involved and perform in high pressure, in a high pressure tournament, lots of great international players playing. You know, it will give the selectors an opportunity and the coaches to look at these guys, how they operate. You know, Mohammad Hasnain getting selected, you know, he's a product of the PSL, although he's come through our system. You know, he hasn't just arrived at the PSL.
Yeah, he played youth cricket as well.
He played youth cricket, you know, Shane Shah, Afridi, all of these guys have come through the PCB system. You know, they haven't just landed on the door of the PSL or playing first class cricket. So I think credit has to be given where credit's due. But the PSL is a fantastic product for us. PSL 4, HBL PSL 4 did fantastically well. The plan really is for HBL PSL 5 to be in Pakistan.
Finally, that would be something special.
This is our goal. This is what we're aiming to do. There's a few logistical areas that we need to deal with, but our plan is very much working towards that, because we know what it will mean to, you know, having 3 or 4 venues in Pakistan. You know, we know they're going to be sellouts. We know from Karachi they're going to be sellouts. But it will continue to give platform to our guys to play in the absence of a lot of our players playing in other high-performing T20 domestic competitions around the world. We can now expose these guys, give them an opportunity. But you know, the PSL is one important facet. You know, it's a great white ball development, but red ball development, this is where our Quaid-e-Azam Trophy comes in. This is where our red ball cricket comes in.
The question mark has been over the marketing strategy for PCB? Because that's been something that's been criticized a lot, that these domestic tournaments, the One Day Cup or the Kaiser Trophy, don't have that equal amount of good marketing in them or a good hype for them, you know, that people know that, okay, this is a game for my state level that I should be watching.
Yeah, the important thing for any organization is the balance you find. So the PSL, all razzmatazz, you know, you need to sell it. We're very lucky. We've got 6 fantastic franchise owners across each of, you know, who have done a huge amount of work, and we thank them for their support they've given, the investment they've given. They're all passionate about moving Pakistan cricket forward, and that's really important, as are HBL, who are huge investors in the game in terms of the PSL. But you know, we've got to keep focusing on a balance between making sure we get the marketing right for the whole game, absolutely right, but also getting the scheduling right. You know, so is it okay for us to have our one-day domestic primary competition condensed into a very short period of time? You know, we name our World Cup squad or our probables 2 days into the competition. You know, getting little things like this is absolutely imperative. Scheduling is an issue for every country around the world.
And meeting deadlines.
Meeting deadlines. Yeah. So we have to get all of these things right. We've got to be clear about where things fit. So why are we playing domestic one-day cricket? What's the narrative for that? What does that lead to? When are we playing our T20 domestic competition? What's that leading to? Our 4-day cricket. You know, playing it over the course of 4 or 5 months rather than 2 months. Why are we doing that? You know, so all of these things have got to fit into the narrative of where we want to go with our international game. So, you know, you can't have a disjointed or fragmented domestic system and an international cricket system up there which has no relevance and has got no alignment to what's going on underneath. Like I said, it's got to feed in, but it's got to be a seamless transition, and it's got to be by design and not just by chance.
By chance as well. There are rumours, you know, that a top test playing nation, or some of them, are going to be touring Pakistan very soon as well. Would you like to comment on the return of proper international cricket consistently to Pakistan?
Well, look, getting international cricket back is one of our primary objectives, has to be. Like I said, you know, we've seen now for an extended period of time that, you know, we can host, you know, matches. We had the World Series, three series matches going on in 2017. We've had the West Indies Women Tour. We've had the West Indies Men, Sri Lanka. You know, so we know that we can host that. What it is, a lot of it is about breaking perception. I think, you know, what I sell the country like you can't imagine to people, because, you know, the first thing people normally say from the Western world is, oh, is it safe and how are you getting on? You know, and that starts to grate you after a while, because you kind of try and explain to people that, you know, the perception and the reality are so poles apart you can't imagine. It's as safe as anywhere, and we've seen what happened in Auckland, in Sri Lanka. You know, nowhere in the world is safe anymore. You know, but what we need to do is get cricket back to Pakistan. We know we can host. We need that first country to step over the line.
Right.
We've got a series against Sri Lanka in September and October, which is a home series. So we're going to begin discussions with them over the next couple of weeks to try and persuade them to come and play in Pakistan. Our under-19s boys are going out to Sri Lanka in the next few days to go and play out there. You know, it's important. We showed solidarity with them at a very difficult time. But, you know, they've done that with us in the past. So it's important. We've had all the security checks and all the plans. We're happy with all of that. And so having the opportunity to support them, hopefully, you know, that could be reciprocated moving forward. But, you know, there's a big step for us to take. But I'm confident, again, that the measures we're putting in place, you know, we will get international cricket back, inshallah, very soon.
Inshallah. And, you know, before we wrap up, finally, the ICC World Cup in England and Wales is just around the corner. These 15 guys are our heroes. We've got to back them no matter what happens. Stay away from all of that negativity and just be out there as a nation. Like you mentioned, be out there in the stands as well. What do you feel for them?
Well, firstly, they're going to get a huge amount of support in England. Yes. Huge amount of support in England. That's going to be unquestionable. I think that it's very easy when, particularly if things don't start well, to get on their backs and start to really get after them. And I think that what we need is continued media support. They're going out there to win. They're going to give their absolute best to win. The most important thing is they do themselves justice. They're prepared. They're ready for the World Cup. We know with our guys that sometimes they start slow. But there's a format now similar to 1992 where they play everybody, which suits us.
9 games.
9 games, which suits us. There's no hiding place with that. You play everybody. You know, and I think we should be confident. We should have positive expectations of what we're going to do, and we absolutely need to believe we can win. You know, I wasn't here in 2017, but I would love to have seen what the sentiments were early on when we got hammered by India, for example, what the strength of feeling was. What that should do is make people believe that, you know, you're always in this. And if we win 6 games out of the 9, you know, you're in it. Once you get to the semi-finals, anything can happen. What we know about our guys is that we've got a huge amount of talent. They have a huge amount of pride for their country. You've got a coaching staff who are absolutely chomping at the bits to get these guys on the field and getting them performing at their best. Let's get the country behind. We've got a brilliant media team now at the PCB who are now driving a lot of our media activity. The players are more accessible now than what they've ever been. And this is all part of it, is to connect with our fans, which we've never really done. And we want to build up, you know, everything in terms of the World Cup to make sure that, you know, our guys know people back in Pakistan, the media, the supporters are right behind them. You know, and you know, there's a strap line that has been produced, which is based around, we will, which is based around, you know, we've won it in the past, and now we're going to do it again. And I think we need to stay positive and get behind the guys.
Well, Wasim, I wish this could go on and on, but unfortunately that's all the time we have in this show as well for this interview. I say this with all my open heart, that you're truly a patriotic Pakistani that's working here and making the country proud. Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
And I hope we can stay connected and get you in touch as well.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. That was Wasim Khan, and I can, you know, say this without any doubt. He's a guy, he's an individual who's achieved everything he wanted to in life. You know, he's climbed that ladder of success. He set a target, he went there, achieved it. But out of all of this, he actually came back to Pakistan just because he wanted to do this service to this nation, to the grassroots, to the roots and origins which define him as well. And like I said, he's truly a proud Pakistani that's making the country proud. We've got to stay behind Wasim, not only Wasim as well, but even our 15-man squad that's going into the World Cup as well. That's all we have time for this special interview. From me and the entire team, it's goodbye for now.